forward. And, and this brings us to our energy policy formulation. Our energy policy formulation is not wedded completely into oil and gas. So whilst we are pursuing this path, our policy formulation for the energy sector is linked to our policy on climate change with the forests and deploying the forest as an international asset. And the policy is linked on how do we reduce the cost of energy in Guyana, which is among the highest in the region, so we can bolster other sectors in the economy. And how do we transition also into cleaner energy? So that is why we are pursuing natural gas as one part, the hydropower as another part. We are pursuing wind, solar. In the solar energy policy formulation, the solar energy policy formulation, we are looking at off-grid system for the hinterland community. Part of that policy too is to ensure access. So you have to understand that there are some things that we believe fundamentally, I mean, the government I serve, that there are some things that are fundamentally a social good: water, housing, even energy. If you're going to transform the lives of people and give them an equal shot at life, that becomes a social good, because the world today requires energy. COVID taught us this. In communities that had lack of energy, they could not have education because technology depends on energy, on electricity. So in that policy formula, systems for hinterland communities that are geographically spread all over, but we have to make that investment. And that is the concept of One Guyana, making these investments to give everyone that opportunity. So our policy formulation is not done in a vacuum, or it's not done within the borders of Guyana. It is carefully crafted, taking into consideration the global realities and the environment in which you're operating. I just wanted to give you some examples as to how policy making is evolving.
No, thank you very much. That was well done and very interesting, because it links Guyana to a larger world, and the policy that your government is formulating and implementing also links to policies that are being formulated elsewhere. As you look at the oil and gas sector and the important role that it will play in generating wealth and helping to finance the kind of development that you talk about, what kind of policies and laws are you putting in place to ensure transparency and to let the Guyanese people know that this is all about building national wealth to generate more national wealth as opposed to individual wealth?
That is a good question, and that is what is a principal aspect of managing the sector. So there are three issues here. You mentioned them already. One is information. The ensuring transparency and accountability requires the population to have access to information. There can be no secrets. The population must be aware of what is coming. So that's the first issue the policy you have to address: information. The second issue, transparency. In addressing transparency, one of the key aspects in the oil and gas sector is the reach and level of involvement that a policy has to address. And three, a clear approach to how revenues are utilized for development and transformation of the country, and the type of oversight that is given to that approach. So let's address those three issues and what we have done. One, public information. Give you the first example of what is in place. When revenue comes in, there's a defined time that the Minister of Finance must make that revenue public, must be published. If he fails to do that, there is a jail term of 10 years. That's the first thing. So the public is aware, fully aware as to what is coming in. The second issue, how do we manage it? There is an independent board of directors that is arm's length from the government. On that board, we have international people. For example, we have Mr. David Lammy from the UK, the shadow foreign secretary. No political reach in terms of the board of directors. There's an investment committee that works with the central bank in determining how investments are made, totally. So we remove the political hand that is a major international issue in the process. The public, how the money is transferred into the system. This is the greatest scrutiny. And every cent spent from the revenue would go through a parliamentary process because it has to come through the national budget. Now, that is the greatest level of scrutiny. The national budget is subject to parliamentary debate and approval. So the resources that is coming, the revenue that is coming to be invested in the country and the transformation of the country passes through that parliamentary process, passes through the approval system and process in parliament because the national budget has to be approved. So the parliamentary oversight is there. The parliamentary oversight and transparency, adding to the transparency process. So all of these things we've put in place. Then there is a very simple formula. No complex formula that even the world of academia can't interpret. The most common man out there or woman out there understands the formula we are using to determine what revenue goes into the National Development Scheme. And that is important. We must not build a system that is complex, so complex that it excludes the understanding of the ordinary people. So the formula is very simple. Everyone can understand it. Everyone can calculate it. And the transparency is addressed. Scrutiny is addressed. The parliamentary oversight is addressed. The arm's length relationship with government and politician is addressed. The access to information and public nature of information is addressed. So these are the fundamental issues that has been addressed.
Well, thank you very much. The ability to make public what is happening and ensure public understanding is vital to its acceptance and its success over time. But another aspect that's important, of course, is everything that is related to oil and gas. It is such a large and important industry that touches so many aspects of national life that it generates economic opportunity for others. How do you ensure that if there's not local content, there's at least local participation in what comes with the development of an oil and gas industry?
Well, there is local content. We have passed specific law dealing with local content because we believe that the development of the industry must involve the local stakeholder. But it's not local content that is done in a way in which it ignores the reality. In the development of the local content, we understand it has to be a graduated process. So there are certain areas that is considered the carve-out areas where we believe that we have enough local capacity to effectively and efficiently provide those services. There are certain areas that we lack the capacity and capability, and we know that we have to have that capability, technology coming in from outside. So the local content recognizes that. And then there is a part of graduation. To know that, so the room is created, that local businesses, local entrepreneurs, they are involved in the process so that the transfer of the knowledge and technology and investment is done in a way that graduate these services even to local capacity. Now, the local content is also built in a way that encourages investors to look at Guyana as a operational zone and not just a transactional zone. What do I mean? Let us say someone in machining and engineering. They can just do all the machining and engineering here in the US or somewhere else and just pass the end product through Guyana to the rig or whoever they have to deliver the service to. That does not add the value. So what we have done is that we have created an environment in which those companies would see it viable to do the manufacturing in Guyana, to do the value added in Guyana, creating that a whole new demand structure for engineers, machinists, and so on. Now, what that does, it triggers the policy making framework to do something, to react to that. And that is why now we are working on the National Training Center and a skills development program that is geared and targeted towards ensuring that we build the capacity, so we provide the environment and the training that will support the next level of human resource requirement. So it's working on different branches in ensuring that there is full local participation, there is growing local participation, and more value added to what that participation will be in the future. Not only are we looking at it from a human resource and a skill and a technology perspective, but a financial perspective. Only recently, we were having a conversation as to how we address the issue of cash flow and access to capital. Because the local private sector may not have the capital outlay or the cash flow to have a 90 days lag time in terms of when your invoices are paid. And that might be an industry standard that suppliers are accustomed to. So we are working even on addressing these issues in the local content context. How do we ensure that they have access to a cash flow? And the banking system is integrated in supporting that so that we can build the capacity also from a cash flow and capital outlay point of view.
You talked also about sustainability and the unique position that Guyana finds itself in as both a promoter of environmental stewardship and the fight against climate change and the importance of forests and biodiversity, and your developing oil and gas industry. Do you find this difficult to explain here in the United States, or is this resonating with the people you're meeting with?
I don't find it difficult to explain. And I believe it is resonating. I believe that we all have a fairly good understanding as to what the world needs. But as I said, Guyana should be strategically looked at, not only from the climate perspective, but as an important player for the U.S. in energy security. And this is a conversation that we must have. We are a stable partner. We are a partner that shares common value. So we should really be the partner and the destination of choice in addressing the issue of energy security for the region and for the U.S. So it's natural that we have this conversation and the policy making take into consideration the potential that exists for Guyana in the advancement of our oil and gas sector, and ensuring that we do so quickly, safely, efficiently, to the benefit of Guyana, but in supporting energy security for the region. And we are very clear on what we want to achieve. The clarity of our vision in oil and gas and climate change is very, very clear. We have made our position very, very clear. Recently, I had an engagement with the UN Secretary General in CARICOM, the CARICOM heads of government, and I reinforced the position of Guyana. That is, we have to ensure we expeditiously explore and exploit the natural resource oil and gas and use it in the transformation of our country, but in a responsible way. There is no secret about that, as also there is no secret of us deploying our forests. But understanding that that forest has a value. The forest did not exist only after oil and gas, it existed there a long time ago. And it has a value. It has to be monetized. And the Vice President has been leading this effort long before oil and gas, not only for Guyana, because he was championing this for all the forest countries, bringing forests in the environmental conversation and mainstreaming forests as part of the conversation on climate change, adaptation and mitigation, and understanding the value it brings is a conversation that Guyana provide great leadership on, that we're very proud of. And we will continue to provide that leadership in this regard. So we are very clear about our role. We are very clear about the value we can bring to the United States, to this region, and to the world in terms of climate change and oil and gas. And we have clear definition as to how we can bring that value system.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very
Well, guys, again, this is, there is wisdom to be, depicted or to be, noted in this particular gentleman's, talk. The Guyanese president stands out to me to be one of, the global genius, even as he's trying to put his country together. Despite the fact that, there were wrangles, even as, they discovered the oil reserves in this particular Guyanese country. So there has been, scuffles here and there on who is supposed to, to do the mining and who is not. Remember, Guyanese is found in South, America, and definitely is going to, contribute to the GDP of its, first of all, its country, a prospectus of the same. Something that is worthy noting that you see, once the world realizes that you've got something, they will always come for it, and especially if you know that you are of this particular, strong stance, that you've got values that are much stronger than other people's policies and, opinion, then they would want really to see, to shake and see how shaken you can get. And I find that this particular gentleman is so much strong in his, articulations and his structural government that he has put in place, that you see all this one has to be overseen by many functions, like not functions, but I would say that there has to be, let's say for example, the development of the nation has to be seen by many factions that contribute largely on the table and the continuity of this particular Guyanese country, and also the people of Guyana. And so, Guyanese, in the people in the house, let me also get to know your sentiments and your thoughts about your president, this particular gentleman who stands out to be a genius to this particular extent, because that is an asset that you guys do have. Do drop me your comment on the comment section, and let's meet in the other uploads. Stay tuned, and you guys stay safe.